Hello everyone! In this video, I will cover the basics of Roblox Studio. This is an easy beginner's tutorial, so if you are completely new to Roblox Studio, this video will help you learn your way around to design and develop games in Roblox Studio. Before getting going, please like, comment and subscribe to support the channel. Thanks, let's begin. When we open up Roblox Studio, we are presented with this screen. From here, we can create a new project or open one of our existing projects. We'll now create a new project. Here, there are templates that we can choose from. We'll select base plate. It created a new empty project for me. Let's start with the tabs on the top. As you can see, currently the Home tab is active. The Home tab displays features from other tabs that are frequently used. Most of the time, the Home tab is enough to perform basic stuff for game design and development. As you can see, we have tools for moving objects. We can insert parts, we can test our game, etc. We'll talk about each of these later in the video. If we move to the next tab, which is the Model tab, it includes tools for building objects and environments. In this tab, we can find tools to create and modify different parts. We can combine models or separate models from each other. We can create some constraints for our game and so on. The next tab is called Test. It lets us test our game. We'll test our game later in the video and talk about different testing options such as play and run. The next tab is the View tab. We have some open windows like Explorer and Properties. We can deactivate and activate different windows from here. The two most important windows are the Explorer window and the Properties window. We usually keep them open all the time during game development. If you are writing scripts, the output window is also useful. But in this tutorial, we won't be writing any scripts, so we won't need the output window. The last tab is called Plugins. Here we can see different plugins that include custom features that can be helpful during game development. We can install plugins created by others, or we can create our own plugins and we can even distribute them on Roblox for others to download and use. Let's go back to the Home tab. Another important part of Roblox Studio is the File menu here. When we click, we see different options such as game settings, studio settings, etc., which are useful. From here, we can save our Roblox project to a file, like this, and we can give it a name, Roblox Basics. Now it is saved. The name can be seen here. Now we can work on this Roblox project locally. It will be saved on our local hard drive. If we want to use some assets such as textures, sounds, etc., we will need to upload them to the Roblox cloud. And to be able to upload them, we'll need to save our Roblox project to the cloud. For that, from the File menu, we'll select Save to Roblox. Let's do that since we'll use some assets in this video. Again, let's call it Roblox Basics. Here, we can write a description for the project. We can change the creator, genre, etc. When we save it, it is stored on the Roblox cloud. Let's talk about the Explorer and Properties windows. Let's start with the Explorer window here. This is the most important window and it represents all the objects in our game. All of these objects that we see here are in our game. For example, spawn location, base plate, etc. The objects are shown in a hierarchy. We have parents and their children. For example, workspace is the parent of base plate, and base plate has a child called texture. This hierarchy structure is very useful to organize the objects in our Explorer. We can add some objects here. For example, if I want to add a child to the workspace, I can click this plus sign here. A list opens up with a lot of options for object creation. If it is difficult to find what we are looking for, we can search by typing. Let's click folder to add a folder here as a child of the workspace. If I want to delete an object, I can click on it and press the delete key on the keyboard. Like this, we can add or remove some objects. Let's add a part, which is a rectangular block. Another way of creating parts is from this insert section on the Home tab. We can create a sphere, a wedge that looks like this, a corner wedge, or a cylinder. Looks nice. We can create parts from the Model tab as well, from here. To observe our beautiful parts from different angles, we would want to move the viewpoint. We can use the WASD keys on the keyboard to move our viewpoint forward, backward, and sideways. To move the camera up and down, we use the E and Q keys. This movement speed is defined in the settings. If you want to move your viewpoint slower, you can hold down the Shift key while using the WASD and EQ keys. We may want to rotate our viewpoint as well. To do that, we should click down the right button of our mouse and move it around like this. We can move and rotate simultaneously as well. While moving around in our scene, sometimes we may lose sight of our objects of interest, like this. To focus on an object in our viewpoint, we can select the object in the Explorer window, then press the F key on our keyboard. If we select another object and press F again, it will make that object the center of focus. This is very handy for focusing on a specific object in our game. Let's talk about how to rename objects here. If I right-click on a part, we can select Rename and type the new name. Another way is to click on the part and press F2 on the keyboard. Or after clicking on the object once, if you click on it again, you can see that Roblox Studio enables us to rename that object. Let's take a look at the Properties window now. The Properties window shows properties that control how an object looks and functions. The Properties window is context-aware, meaning that it shows the selected object's properties, such as position, size, etc. If we select Part 1 on the Explorer, we can see its color information here, position information here, and several other properties. We can change the values of these properties from here. Let's change the color. I click on the little colored square here and pick a different color. When I click OK, the part's color is changed, and the new color value can be seen here on the Properties window. Here we have the position property. We can expand it like this. It has three values, X, Y, and Z, that defines the part's position in 3D space. We can change the values here. Let's type 3 for the X value. The part moved to our left a bit. Let's type for the Z and the Y values. As you can see, we can move the object in our scene by changing its position values on the Properties window. We can also make changes to objects by using the tools in the Model or Home tabs. If we select the Move tool, axis arrows appear, and we can move objects by clicking and dragging. We can scale objects similarly by activating the Scale tool. We can also rotate objects by activating the Rotate tool and clicking and dragging along the axis lines, like this. As you may have noticed, it doesn't move or rotate continuously. The reason is the Snap to Grid values here. If we just deactivate it, we can move or rotate objects continuously. To undo changes, we can use Ctrl and Z keys on our keyboard or click on the backwards arrow icon here. If we want to neatly organize objects in our scene, we can keep Snap to Grid active so that objects move by one stud at a time and rotate by 45 degrees at a time. We can also change these values as we like. Another way of moving objects is that when we hover over, the cursor is turned to a hand icon. In this state, if we click and drag the object, we can move the object on the surfaces in the scene, like this. Another property that is related to the appearance of objects is material. If we click here, several materials are presented. We can pick different materials such as ice or marble. Let's pick wood planks for the wedge and change the brick color to brown. We can change reflectance and transparency as well. If I move this sphere up, we can see that it's opaque. We can increase its transparency value so that it becomes semi-transparent. To change materials, we can use the Material Manager in the Model tab. We can select different materials from this list as well. Let's select grass. We can see how it looks here. If we click that Paint button and select an object, it will be applied to that object. Its color is gray, but grass material is applied to the sphere, as you can see here. Another way of changing the appearance of an object is using an image. Let's focus on Part 1 and let's try to change its appearance by adding an image. First, we'll need to upload that image. For that, we should go to the View tab and select Asset Manager. Here, there is a button for importing files. Here, I have a test image. I select that and it gets imported. We can now use it in our game. Let's close the Asset Manager. To add that image to our object, I'm gonna add a child to that. I'll select Decal. When I hover over, it displays a description that says a texture that is placed on one of the sides of the part that it is parented to. When we click, we can select the face to which we want to apply the decal by moving our cursor. Let's click on the top face to select it. If I click decal on the Explorer, you can see that the face value is set to top in the Properties window. Currently, there is no texture assigned to the decal. Let's take care of that. Click on the box next to texture, select our imported texture, and as you can see, it is added to the top face of our part. The decal covers the whole top face of the part. If we go to the Model tab and rescale the part, we can see that the decal gets scaled accordingly. If we want a repeated image instead of a stretched one, we can use a texture instead. Let's add it as a child. We can try to find it in the list, or we can just start typing texture here. It will display the options with matching names. Let's click on texture and add it as a child. Again, it asks for a face. Let's select top again. As you can see, the image is repeated now. If I scale the object down or up, you can see that the image is not stretched, but the number of repetitions gets increased or decreased. To change the number of repetitions, we can change these stats per tile U and V values. 2 means that a single repetition of the texture is 2 stats long. If we increase the value, the texture will get larger, and if we decrease it, the texture will get smaller and there will be more repetitions. We can also create some positioning offset by putting in values other than 0 here for x and y axes. Let's talk about behavioral properties. We can select multiple objects by clicking on them while holding down the Shift key. We can now move all of them simultaneously, which can be very handy for making large-scale adjustments on our game objects. There are 2 important behavioral properties. The first one is the anchored property. By default, these parts are not anchored. Anchored property controls whether objects will be affected by forces like gravity during runtime or not. If we go to the Test tab, click on this arrow under Play and run the game, all parts fell down due to gravity. To prevent that, we can select all parts and enable anchored property on the Properties window, or by going to the Model tab and clicking the anchor icon here. When they are anchored, if I run the game, the parts will just stay where they were and won't get affected by gravity. The other important behavioral property is can collide. This property decides whether other parts can pass through this object or not. To observe that property better, let's talk about the other 2 testing options here. We have play and play here. If I click play, our avatar is spawned at the spawn position and we can move around and test our game. If we want our avatar to be spawned at a specific position in our game world, we can move the camera there by changing our viewpoint, like this, and select play here. Our character is spawned at that position. Here, as you can see, I can step on the objects and jump on them, because if you recall, Can Collide was enabled for all of these parts. Sometimes we may want our character to pass through some objects. In that case, we should disable Can Collide. Let's select part 1 and disable Can Collide. When I click play, I can pass through part 1. I cannot interact with it physically, but I can still interact with the other parts. So this covers the basics of Roblox Studio. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to support the channel for more videos. If you want a new game development tutorial, let me know in the comments. You can get access to the Roblox project file from Patreon. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.